My friends, history has taught us a profound lesson. The world does not give honor to those who beg for it. It gives honor to those who earn it through dignity, self-respect, and vision. Nations that were once broken have risen to greatness, not because the world pitied them, but because they chose to respect themselves first. Think of the farmer who rises before dawn. No audience applauds him, no spotlight follows him, but day after day he plants, he waters, he waits. And when the harvest comes, the entire community depends on his unseen faithfulness. That is respect. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things, not because the world told them they were great, but because they believed they had something great within them. Self-respect is the foundation of influence. If you do not honor yourself, your gifts, your time, your purpose, then how can you expect the world to honor you? The change we cry for in society begins when we look in the mirror and say, I am responsible. I will not wait for others to define my worth. I will define it myself. I have walked through communities where hopelessness once reigned, and I have seen transformation. How? People decided to rise. They decided to educate their children even when the schools were weak. They decided to build businesses even when the economy was poor. They decided to respect themselves, and the world had no choice but to respect them. You see, storms will come. Obstacles will stand in your way, but storms do not last forever. The seed of greatness inside you is stronger than any wind that blows against you. Perseverance is the bridge between where you are and where you are destined to be. So I say to you today, value your mind, value your gift, value your destiny. Walk tall, not in arrogance, but in dignity. Because when you respect yourself, you teach the world how to treat you. Let us rise above excuses. Let us rise above fear. Let us rise above the temptation to wait for someone else to change things for us. The responsibility is ours. The opportunity is here. And remember this truth: the world respects those who respect themselves. So respect your time, respect your potential, respect your calling, and watch the world open doors you never dreamed could be opened. My friends, let me begin with a picture. Imagine holding a small seed in your hand. To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing, fragile, insignificant, easy to dismiss. But inside that tiny seed is a forest. Inside that seed is shade for generations yet unborn, fruit for thousands yet unseen, and wood strong enough to build houses that may last a century. The seed does not look like much, but if it respects itself enough to stay in the soil, to endure the rain, to wait for the sun, to push through the darkness, it becomes what it was always destined to be. That seed is you. That seed is me. That seed is every person who ever dared to believe they were born with something more than what the world could see. But here's the truth: just like the seed, you must respect yourself enough to go through your process. Respect is not just how others treat you. Respect is how you treat yourself when no one is watching. Respect is discipline. It is the refusal to throw away your destiny on small distractions. Respect is saying, I am valuable, therefore I will not waste my time, my talent, or my opportunities. I've seen too many people hand away their greatness because they didn't value it. A seed left on the shelf will never grow. A seed that despises its soil will never bloom. And a person who does not respect their gift will never see it flourish. The world does not respect those who disrespect themselves. If you act as if your life has no worth, people will believe you. If you treat your gift as if it is ordinary, people will treat you as ordinary. But when you respect yourself, something changes. You begin to walk differently, not in arrogance, but in quiet dignity. You begin to think differently, guarding your thoughts as if they are treasures. You begin to speak differently because you understand that your words carry weight. And without even asking for it, people start to notice. Opportunities find you. Influence follows you. Why? Because the world respects those who respect themselves. Let me tell you a story. I once met a young man who grew up in a community where no one expected much. The schools were weak, the economy was poor, and the future seemed closed. Many of his friends gave up, but he told me something powerful. He said, I looked at myself in the mirror one day and decided that even if no one believed in me, I would believe in myself. Even if the world ignored me, I would not ignore myself. He began to rise early in the morning to study. He worked jobs no one else wanted, but he worked them with pride. He refused to complain, and he never stopped learning. In time, he started his own business. Years later, he became a leader in his community, a man of influence and honor. When I asked him what made the difference, he said these words: I respected myself when no one else did. And eventually, the world had to. That is the principle of life. The respect you give yourself determines the respect the world gives you. Not because the world is generous, but because the world responds to the law of dignity. Think about it. When you see a person who values their time, who refuses to compromise their integrity, who works with discipline, who speaks with vision, something in you respects them, even if you don't know their name. The same can be true of you. The challenge is that many people wait for the world to recognize them before they recognize themselves. They wait for applause before they believe they are valuable. But you cannot wait for validation. The seed does not wait for approval before it grows. The seed grows because it respects its process, because it honors its purpose. Your life is no different. If you respect your mind, you will feed it knowledge. If you respect your body, you will treat it with care. If you respect your purpose, you will not waste your time on things that pull you away from it. Self-respect is the soil where destiny grows. Now let me make this clear. Self-respect is not pride. It is not thinking you are better than others. No, self-respect is humility in action. It is recognizing that your life was given to you by God with intention, and to squander it is to insult the gift. To respect yourself is to honor the one who made you. And when you walk in that kind of self-respect, the world begins to shift around you. Doors open that were once closed. People listen to those who there are moments in history when entire nations were written off as failures. Economies collapsed, governments fell, communities were abandoned, and people lost hope. Yet, if you look carefully, you will notice that those same nations did not remain in that place forever. Some of the most powerful societies today were once places of poverty and despair. The difference was not money. The difference was not luck. The difference was dignity. They stopped waiting for pity from the world and started choosing self-respect. I have walked through neighborhoods where brokenness seemed permanent. Buildings crumbled, children wandered without education, and the spirit of despair hung like a heavy cloud. And yet, in those same places, I have seen individuals who refuse to let their circumstances define them. A young woman starting a small business with nothing but borrowed tools. A father teaching his children at home because the schools were too weak. A community coming together to clean the streets no one else cared about. What was that? That was dignity in action. That was people saying, we may be broken, but we will not stay broken. You see, the world does not reward weakness. The world does not respect excuses. It respects resilience. It respects those who fall 7 times but rise 8. It respects those who may be overlooked but still choose to stand tall. The world may offer sympathy to the weak, but it gives respect to the strong. And strength, my friends, begins with self-respect. Brokenness is not the end of your story. Some of the greatest leaders we celebrate today came from nothing. Some of the innovators who transformed the world were born in obscurity. They were not respected at the beginning. In fact, many of them were mocked, ridiculed, and underestimated. But they respected themselves enough to keep going. They respected their gift enough to keep working when no one believed in them. They respected their purpose enough to persevere when everything around them said it was impossible. Let me share something I've learned. Dignity is contagious. When one person in a family chooses to rise, soon the others begin to rise. When one person in a community decides to stand with dignity, others are inspired to do the same. Respect is like a seed. It multiplies when it is planted. One act of dignity can ripple across generations. A father who works with integrity passes that dignity to his children. A mother who carries herself with self-respect teaches her daughters their worth. A teacher who respects his own calling inspires his students to respect theirs. The problem with many of us is that we are waiting for someone else to lift us. We are waiting for society to recognize us before we recognize ourselves. But hear me clearly, no one will respect you until you respect yourself first. No one will honor your dreams until you honor them yourself. The world is watching you, and the way you treat yourself gives the world instructions on how to treat you. Imagine a broken piece of land filled with weeds and waste. Most people pass by and see nothing of value. But one man comes and says, I will plant here. I will care for this soil. I will build. Slowly, the land changes. The weeds are removed. The soil is enriched, and soon fruit begins to appear. That land was the same land all along. The difference was the respect of the one who worked it. You are that land. Your life is fertile, but it demands self-respect to bring forth fruit. I once spoke to a group of young men in a place where hopelessness was common. They asked me, how do we change the way the world sees us? And I answered, you cannot control how the world sees you, but you can control how you see yourself. And when you respect yourself, when you walk with dignity, when you carry yourself as valuable, the world will be forced to adjust its view of you. Respect is not about titles or positions. It is not about wealth or status. Respect is about how you carry yourself when no one is applauding. Respect is about doing your best work, even if nobody notices. Respect is about rising in the morning and saying, I will not give up on myself today. Some people will tell you that dignity doesn't matter anymore, that the world only cares about power and money. But that is not true. Even the world cannot deny the strength of a person who carries themselves with dignity, because dignity is power, self-respect is an influence, and brokenness cannot withstand the force of a man or woman who has decided to respect themselves. Once ignored you, opportunities appear where once there was only emptiness, not because the world suddenly decided to be kind, but because the world cannot resist the dignity of a person who respects themselves. There is a test that every person must take. It is not given a classroom, and no teacher can grade it. It is taken alone, in silence, in the most ordinary place, standing in front of a mirror. Because the greatest challenge you will ever face is not the opinion of the world, not the criticism of people, not even the opposition of enemies. The greatest challenge you will face is what you see when you look at yourself. The mirror does not lie. It reflects who you are at that moment. And many of us avoid the mirror, not because we are afraid of our face, but because we are afraid of confronting our value. We would rather seek validation from others than face the truth ourselves. But until you respect the person in the mirror, the world will never truly respect you. I remember speaking to a group of young leaders, and I asked them to close their eyes and imagine themselves 5 years in the future. Some saw success, some saw failure, and some saw nothing at all. Then I told them, the picture you see is not created by the world around you. It is created by the respect you give yourself today. If you see yourself as small, weak, and unworthy, the world will treat you as small, weak, and unworthy. But if you see yourself as valuable, purposeful, and dignified, the world will have no choice but to respond to that. The mirror test is about accountability. You can fool the public, you can impress your friends, but you cannot deceive the mirror. If you are wasting time, the mirror knows. If you are abusing your gift, the mirror knows. If you are living below your potential, the mirror knows. And every time you pass the mirror, your spirit whispers a question: when will you begin to respect me? Respect begins in secret. It is how you treat yourself when no one is watching. It is how you value your ideas when no one applauds them. It is how you guard your time when no one else sees the sacrifice. That is where dignity begins, not on a stage, not in public, but in the quiet moments when you decide that your life has meaning. There is power in this. A man or woman who has passed the mirror test walks differently. Their back is straight, their eyes are clear, their steps are steady. They are not seeking approval because they already gave themselves approval. They are not begging for respect because they already respect themselves. And the world recognizes this, sometimes without even understanding why. I once heard a story of a woman who worked as a cleaner in an office building. Most people passed her without acknowledgement, but she carried herself with such dignity, always greeting people with kindness, always working with excellence, always smiling as though her job mattered. One day, the company's leadership was watching from afar. They noticed how she worked, how she carried herself, and how others were uplifted by her presence. Eventually, she was promoted, given greater responsibility, and honored publicly. What changed? Not her job, not her circumstances, her dignity. She respected herself enough to treat her work as meaningful, and in time, the world respected her too. That is the mirror test. Can you respect yourself even when no one else notices? Can you treat your own life as valuable even when the world ignores you? Can you carry yourself with dignity even when your circumstances seem small? The tragedy is that many of us wait for recognition before we recognize ourselves. We wait for a stage before we respect our gift. We wait for applause before we respect our time. But the seed does not wait for applause before it grows. It grows because it knows it was made to grow, and so must you. Look in the mirror and remind yourself that you are more than your failures, more than your struggles, more than your past. You are filled with potential, and potential demands respect. Every time you invest in your growth, every time you discipline yourself, every time you stand tall in the face of doubt, you are passing the mirror test. You are telling yourself, I matter, I am worthy, I am significant. And once you believe it, the world will see it. When we think of history, we often imagine great kings, powerful generals, famous inventors, and celebrated leaders. But the truth is this: the world is not changed only by giants. The world is changed, shaped, and carried forward by ordinary people who refuse to quit. Think of the mother who wakes up at 4 in the morning to prepare food for her children before she goes to work. She may not be in the headlines, but she is shaping the future. Think of the young student who studies late into the night, reading by the dim light of a lamp, determined to rise above poverty. He may not have applause, but he is building a foundation for tomorrow. Think of the worker who shows up every day, not because his job is glamorous, but because his family depends on him. There is greatness in these acts of faithfulness. There is dignity in these quiet sacrifices. Extraordinary results do not always begin with extraordinary circumstances. Most often, they begin with ordinary people who choose respect. Respect for themselves, respect for their purpose, respect for their potential. The world may overlook them, but heaven records them. And sooner or later, the fruit of their perseverance cannot be ignored. I once met a young man who worked as a security guard. He stood at the gate of a factory day after day, often unnoticed, often unappreciated. But while others saw him as just another guard, he saw himself differently. Every break he had, he read books. He studied leadership, management, and business. He respected his mind enough not to waste his time. Years later, that same young man became the manager of that very factory. How did it happen? He chose to respect himself when no one else did. And because of that, the world eventually had to respect him. This is the secret of life. Extraordinary results come from ordinary people who choose not to despise their small beginnings. Too often we wait for the big stage before we take ourselves seriously. But if you cannot be faithful in little, you will never be trusted with much. Self-respect means treating your small assignment today as if it were already great. It means valuing your steps, no matter how small, because you know they are leading somewhere. Think about it. The farmer who plants seeds may not see a harvest immediately, but he respects the process. He wakes up early. He waters. He waits. Days pass, weeks pass, and nothing seems to change. But then slowly, the first signs of growth appear. And in time, an entire harvest comes forth. That is how ordinary people achieve extraordinary results. They respect their process enough to keep going when nothing seems to be happening. Respect is the turning point. Without respect for yourself, you will quit too soon. Without respect for your purpose, you will waste opportunities. Without respect for your potential, you will settle for less than what you were made for. But when you respect yourself, even in the unseen hours, even in the unnoticed seasons, the extraordinary begins to emerge. I want you to imagine the countless people whose names we will never know. The teachers in small villages who taught generations of children who went on to change the world. The builders who laid the foundations of cities where millions now live. The fathers and mothers who sacrificed silently so their children could stand tall. Ordinary people, and yet their results are extraordinary. The danger we face is comparison. Too many people measure their worth by the visibility of others. They say, I am not great because no one knows my name. But greatness is not in fame. Greatness is in faithfulness. Greatness is in perseverance. Greatness is in the dignity of doing your best even when the world is not watching. The truth is, every extraordinary life is built on ordinary days. What you do today, your discipline, your choices, your respect for your own potential will shape what you become tomorrow. The ordinary is the seedbed of the extraordinary. The mundane is the soil of miracles. I once visited a community where many people lived in poverty, but one family stood out. They did not have much, but their home was clean, their children were disciplined, and there was a spirit of dignity in everything they did. Years later, that family became leaders in their community, building businesses and creating opportunities for others. When I asked them what made the difference, the father said, we respected ourselves too much to let our circumstances define us. That is the call to every one of us, to see our daily lives not as meaningless routines, but as opportunities to walk in dignity. To see our struggles not as signs of weakness, but as training grounds for strength. To see our small acts of faithfulness as the foundation of extraordinary results. Life is full of storms. Some storms you see coming, and some storms strike without warning. A sudden loss, a broken relationship, a failed dream, an unexpected setback. These are the winds that try to bend us, the rains that try to drown us. And in those moments, the temptation is strong to lay down, to surrender, to believe that we cannot rise again. But storms do not last forever, and storms do not define you. What defines you is how you stand in the middle of them. You were not created to be blown away. You were created to endure. You were designed to rise with dignity. Dignity is not the absence of struggle. It is the decision to face the struggle without losing your self-respect. Dignity is not pretending life is easy. It is standing tall when life is at its hardest. It is knowing that no matter what you go through, you are still valuable, you are still purposeful, you are still worthy of respect. I once spoke with a woman who had lost nearly everything, her home, her job, her security. From the outside, people expected her to give up. But when I sat with her, I saw something remarkable. She spoke with hope. She carried herself with quiet strength. She said, "I may have lost things, but I have not lost myself." That is dignity. That is the kind of spirit the world cannot ignore. You see, dignity is a choice. Circumstances may take away your possessions, but only you can decide whether they take away your self-respect. Storms may strip away what you own, but they cannot strip away who you are unless you allow them to. When you walk with dignity, you carry a strength that goes deeper than circumstance. You carry a power that the world respects. Nations rise and fall by this same principle. A country that loses its dignity loses its influence. But people who respect themselves, even in times of hardship, eventually rise again. The rebuilding of any society begins with the decision of its people to value themselves, to walk with integrity, to carry themselves with honor. Families are the same. A home may go through conflict, may go through lack, may go through disappointment. But when a father and mother choose dignity, when they refuse to let their struggles define them, the family begins to heal. The storms of life are not designed to destroy you. They are designed to reveal what you carry inside. Gold is tested by fire, and character is tested by storms. It is in the storm that you discover whether you have chosen self-respect or self-pity. It is in the storm that you discover whether you will collapse or rise with dignity. I want you to imagine a tree standing in a storm. The winds are fierce. The rain is relentless. Some branches may break. Some leaves may fall. But the tree does not give up. Its roots are deep. Its trunk is strong. When the storm passes, the tree is still standing. That is dignity. You may bend, but you do not break. You may lose some things, but you do not lose yourself. There is something powerful about a person who chooses to carry themselves with respect even when everything around them is falling apart. People notice. The world pays attention because dignity is rare in a world where so many are willing to trade their values for temporary comfort. Dignity is strength, and when you walk in it, you send a message: I may not control everything, but I will not lose myself. Too many people today think that influence comes from money, from fame, from power, but true influence comes from dignity. A man who respects himself is respected by others. A woman who respects herself teaches the world how to treat her. Leaders who respect themselves earn the loyalty of those they lead. And communities that choose dignity, even in poverty, rise to create futures that no one thought possible. I once visited a village that had very little. No modern conveniences, no wealth, no prestige. But the people carried themselves with such grace, such respect, that you could not help but honor them. Their homes were simple, but they were clean. Their clothes were plain, but they were neat. Their voices were soft, but they spoke with wisdom. They had chosen dignity, and because of that, they had influence. Outsiders came to that village and left inspired, not because of riches, but because of the power of self-respect. That is the principle that transforms lives, transforms families, and transforms nations. Storms will come, disappointments will come, failures will come. But dignity is a choice that no storm can take away. My friends, across every story we've shared, every truth we've explored, one theme has been constant: the world respects those who respect themselves. Whether it is the seed buried in the soil, the broken community rising with dignity, the person facing the mirror, the ordinary worker creating extraordinary results, or the individual standing tall in the storm, the message is the same. Respect is not something we wait to receive. It is something we must first give ourselves. Self-respect is the foundation of influence. It is the soil where purpose grows, the fire that fuels perseverance, and the light that guides us through darkness. Without it, we shrink, we compromise, we lose ourselves. But with it, we rise, we lead, and we inspire others to do the same. The truth is, you cannot control how others see you, but you can control how you see yourself. You cannot demand respect from the world if you have not first chosen to respect the gift, the time, the destiny that is already within you. So let this be our commitment to value who we are, to honor the lives we've been given, and to carry ourselves with dignity no matter what life brings. Because the storms will pass, the struggles will fade, but the respect you build for yourself will echo for generations. The world may not always give you what you deserve at first, but if you respect yourself, if you walk in dignity, if you persevere with faith, eventually the world will have no choice but to honor you. Remember always, the world respects those who respect themselves.